It was just past 7 on a humid Thursday morning when Eliza Park locked the door to her third-floor apartment on the quiet edge of Rose Hill City. She carried her scuffed yellow bicycle down the narrow stairwell, its wheels bumping against the rusted handrail. The building was old and tired, but familiar, a place where she had lived since her mother passed away, filled with dreams, debts, and determination. Eliza worked at Sun Petal Bakes, a small bakery tucked between a laundromat and a used bookstore. She was a talented pastry chef with a dream, one day to open her own cafe, not just a place to sell desserts, but a warm, welcoming space that offered free baking classes for kids who couldn't afford culinary school. But money was tight, and opportunities were rare. This morning mattered. Mr. Farrow, the bakery's owner, had announced that a potential investor would be stopping by, someone with the means to expand Sun Petal into a small chain. It could mean promotions, new stores, and a real shot for Eliza to rise beyond assistant baker. She had spent the whole week prepping recipes and perfecting her lemon tart, her signature dessert. As she pedaled briskly down the tree-lined side street, she mentally reviewed every detail. Did she add the extra zest to the lemon filling? Was the crust buttery enough? But just before she reached the intersection at Pine Grove Avenue, she spotted an older man crouched on the sidewalk beside a worn-down bicycle. He looked to be in his 60s or 70s, wiry, sun-weathered, with shaky hands struggling to fix a snapped chain. His jacket was threadbare, his shoes mismatched. The chain dangled uselessly from the gear. Pie. Eliza hesitated. Pie. She was running late. She had a job to get to. But something about the man's quiet persistence, the way he kept trying despite clearly being overwhelmed, it tugged at her. She braked hard and turned around. "Hi," she said, stepping off her bike. "Do you need some help?" The man looked up. His eyes were tired but kind. "It's nothing. I'm just trying to get it working again. Don't want to trouble anyone." "It's not trouble," she replied, kneeling down beside him. "I've fixed this kind of thing before. You just need to get the chain aligned with the rear cog and pedal backward gently." He moved aside as she worked. Her fingers quickly found the problem. The chain had slipped and jammed. She reached into her bag for a tissue, wiped off some grease, and carefully rethreaded the chain. Her hands were black within minutes, but she didn't care. "There," she said, spinning the pedals. The chain caught, turning smoothly. "Just try not to shift into high gear for a while." The old man stared at the bike, then at her. "You didn't have to stop," he said. "I know," she replied simply, wiping her fingers on her apron. "But if I were stuck here, I'd hope someone would stop for me too." He gave a small, crooked smile. "You work around here?" "I do, at Sun Petal Bakes, down the block. We open soon, actually. You should stop by. I make the lemon tarts. They're pretty good, if I say so myself." "I might just do that," he said. "Thank you, Eliza," she blinked. "How did you?" But he was already walking away with his bicycle, slowly and steadily down the sidewalk. Eliza stood in place for a moment, a strange warmth in her chest despite the sticky morning air. Then she turned and pedaled toward the bakery. She had no idea that her small act of kindness, a 10-minute pause on a busy morning, would change everything. Eliza arrived at Sun Petal Bakes 15 minutes late, breathless and streaked with bike grease. Mr. Farrow glanced at her with raised eyebrows but didn't scold her. The pressure of the day was already thick in the air. "You ready for the big moment?" he asked as she ducked behind the counter to wash her hands. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, scrubbing at the oil on her fingers. Together they set up the display case with their finest pastries. The star, as always, was Eliza's lemon tart, golden, tangy, smooth, and topped with candied zest. She had added a small twist this time, a pinch of pink peppercorn, hoping it would offer just enough surprise to stand out. The front door chimed. In walked a sharply dressed woman in a navy suit, tablet in hand, eyes assessing the place with cool detachment. She said she was there on behalf of the anonymous investor and would be conducting an independent review. She moved methodically, taking notes and photos, barely speaking. She sat at the tasting table and began sampling. Scone, muffin, shortbread, tart. When she bit into the lemon tart, she paused. For just a second, something in her posture softened. "Who made this?" she asked. "I did," Eliza said. The woman tapped her screen a final time. "You'll be hearing from us soon." Then she was gone. Eliza exhaled for what felt like the first time that day. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of customers, flour, and silent hopes. That evening, Eliza returned to her apartment, exhausted but restless. She thought about the man she'd helped. Something about him stayed in her mind. His tone, his eyes. He had thanked her by name, though she never remembered giving it. She was halfway through her tea when she heard a knock. No one ever knocked. She opened the door to find no one there, only a thick envelope on the floor. She picked it up. It had her name written in elegant handwriting, Eliza Park. Inside was a check. $500,000. To a letter. To Eliza. You stopped. You helped. You gave without knowing who I was or what I could offer in return. I've spent much of my life with people who smiled for the sake of appearances, who helped when it profited them. But you didn't flinch when you saw an old man struggling. You offered your time, your energy, and your kindness. You even offered me a tart. This is my way of saying thank you, and ensuring that kindness like yours can rise, like dough left to proof. Invest this in your future, and keep helping others as you helped me. A man who believes in second chances. Eliza stood frozen. Her hands trembled. It was him. The man with the broken bicycle. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. Not from shock, but from the confirmation that her small act had mattered. For once, kindness had come full circle. The next morning, Eliza brought the letter and check to Mr. Farrow. Together they sat in the kitchen, reading it in stunned silence, steam curling from untouched mugs of tea. "This is real," Eliza said softly. He nodded, still trying to absorb it. "I think we know what to do with it." They used the funds to renovate Sun Petal Bakes, expand the kitchen, and launch a community baking program for local youth. Word of the mysterious donation spread fast, especially after a local reporter picked up the story of the girl who fixed a bicycle and found a future. Customers came not just for the lemon tart, but for the warmth the bakery had come to represent. Eliza trained young bakers, taught weekend classes, and created a pay-it-forward coffee program. She started a scholarship fund for culinary students from low-income families. Still, she often thought of the man with the rusted bike. Then, one rainy afternoon, nearly a year later, she saw him again. He was standing across the street beneath a flickering lamppost, the same worn jacket and soft expression on his face. Eliza stepped outside, the scent of fresh bread following her. "I knew it was you," she said, voice full of quiet joy. He smiled. "I had a feeling your tart would be worth it." She laughed, tears welling in her eyes. "Why did you choose me?" "Because you didn't ask what I could give. You just gave." He reached into his coat and handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a silver key. "What's this?" "A storefront. Needs care, needs purpose. You'll know what to do with it." When she looked up, he was already gone, disappearing once again into the crowd. 2 years later, the Yellow Bicycle Kitchen opened its doors. Part cafe, part culinary school, part soup kitchen. It became a place where people could learn, eat, and heal. The walls were painted warm, sunflower yellow. The original lemon tart was still served every morning. On the front sign hung a simple motto: "Kindness is the recipe that never fails." And sometimes, when the wind was just right, Eliza would leave a muffin on the bench outside, just in case.